All right, so a few people asked me about my system for doing water changes. I've never done a tutorial before, but this is the thing that I made. My original vision was that it would be a siphon with the water coming out this way and then going down here, and obviously I've got a valve here to turn it on and off. And then my original thought was I would use the same device to pump water back in through here and then come down here, and this would spread the water out so it doesn't just blast the bottom of the tank. As it turns out, I'm not using this at all. I have something else that I use to put water back in, and that is over here. And you can see I put the same kind of doodad on there, so when I pump the water back into the tank, the water comes out and it's not spraying straight down into the substrate, spraying everything around. The water gets spread around. I'll show that to you in a minute. But first, on this end, I've got an attachment, and it's a standard attachment. You can put a garden hose on there, and as I said in my post, I can put a garden hose on here and run it right out the front door. But I also have this shorter piece for doing close proximity work. And what I like to do is when I'm doing a big water change, I like to store some water in the jug over here, just to set aside in case I didn't buy enough RO water and I need something else to fall back on. I've got some clean water that I took out of the tank. So I use that, and that'll go directly in there. And this screws on here like that. And the way you start the siphon, the valve is open. Just going to take this and put the whole thing into the tank up to the valve, so the hose fills with water. I'm now going to turn the valve, so now the water is trapped in there, and I'm going to carefully bring this out, keeping the end submerged so the water doesn't come out of there, and just tilt this around like that, and take this end and put that in my container and turn my valve. And there we go. So I got some water in there. I turned the hose. It stopped flowing. So now, and you can see I've got my garden hose. It's running outside. And now I can undo this. And I'm done with that. Toss that aside. And now I attach the garden hose to the same place. All right, so now the hose is on there. And when I turn this on again, the water starts flowing. There we go. There's water from the fish tank. So I've got some water in the garbage can here with my pump, and this is just automatically filtering the water, and you can see the water is coming up around here, and it's being split into two directions. And ultimately I'm going to end up taking this and just running that back into the fish tank to transfer water from the tank here, from the can into the tank. And so here I've got the jug, and I pour this into the can there rather than pouring it directly into the fish tank. As you can see here, the water level is getting lower. As I've been putting water into my garbage can over there, the water is continuing to be draining outside, and it's just about to reach. There we go. You might be able to hear it gurgling as the water level reaches the hose. And so it will just automatically stop. Now that this is finished, I can pull this up out of the water. Any water is still continuing to drain here. I still have the valve open, so any water that was in there is continuing to go outside. I lift this up high, and I'm just going to toss this outside to dry off while I finish working on the tank. Alright, so I've got 25 gallons in the can here, and since I'm using RO water, I'm adding some equilibrium because it's a planted tank, and it wants 1 tablespoon for every 20 gallons of water. I've got 25 in here, so I'm going to going to sprinkle it in here. The pump is running, everything is mixing. And then it's just a smidge more for the 20, for that extra 5. All right. And I'm just going to let this run a little bit, and while that's running, I can go and clean the tank a little bit and so forth. And in a couple of minutes, I'll be back and I'll show you how I put the water back into the tank. All right, so it's been a couple of minutes, and my minerals have had a chance to dissolve in the water, and as you can see, it's still circulating. The pump is running. Now, when I put the water back into the tank, this is actually going to end up being a 2-person job, so I'm going to have to stop at some point, because what's going to end up happening as the last of the water goes into the tank, the pump, the can will be empty, and the last of the water will go in there. The end of the hose will be submerged, and when I unplug the pump on this end, I could get a reverse siphon going back into the garbage can. So my daughter, who's holding the camera right now and is being a terrific help, thank you, Hannah, my daughter will help me out with that. I'm going to have to stop recording when that happens, because at one point I'm going to need her to unplug the pump at the same time that I lift the whole thing up out of the water. That way I don't get that siphon action going on. So, but in order to get this started, first thing I need to do is unplug the pump to turn it off. And now I can take this out. And as I pointed out earlier, when the water goes back into the tank, rather than having it blasting down, straight down, and knocking everything, like all the substrate around and everything, I've got this diffuser, so it'll spray out to the sides. So I'll just take this and clamp that on the tank there. And then I will plug it back in, and if you watch what happens over there when I plug it back in, you'll see the water going into the tank. There we go. And you can see it's going in 2 different directions. It's not disturbing the substrate down at the bottom, and it just pumps the water directly out of the garbage can right into the fish tank. And we have a slight white haze in there from the minerals I added to the water, but that will clear up in a few minutes. And that's how I do a water change.